2 weeks ago, 2 Sundays ago, I shared with my church congregation, but I was speaking specifically to the men. I said, do you know what tends to happen when you get at least two men together in a room who engage in honest, sincere dialogue, right? Conversation that allows them to be transparent and vulnerable. At least one of those men will begin to cry, right? And if you talk longer, or the longer you talk, the other gentleman will join in. And I said, oftentimes that's due to the fact that we've suppressed so many different feelings and emotions, and we've been conditioned as men to not express ourselves in that way because it's deemed weak. And we don't want to allow our moment of vulnerability and transparency to be used against us at no point in time. So it's the risk that we take. But what I realize is if we do continuously just suppress the feelings and emotions, we'll eventually implode or explode. Either or, somebody's going to get hurt, right? Severely hurt in some cases. Um, when I shared that at church a couple of Sundays ago, I told the men and everyone else who were there that day, I said, man, I cried the morning getting dressed, right? Alone. And what prompted me to cry was a song that I heard that reminded me of my mother, right? And I cried. Now, of course, like men, even in the privacy of my own home and by myself, I wiped my tears real, like, Lord, I'm doing crying. But I had to get it up off of me. I was expressing myself. The reason why I was standing up speaking in front of the congregation is because I was extending the men an invitation, a personal invitation to join me this past Saturday for a men's one-day retreat in-house at our church at Huber Memorial Church in Baltimore, where we're led by Servant Pastor P.M. Smith. And I'm blessed to be in a leadership role as the president of the men's fellowship there. So I was encouraging men to come and join for a wonderful planned day. And by the grace of God, it was a blessing. The actual day was a day to remember and a day of blessings. We had 3 phenomenal facilitators of learning. We studied the Bible. We shared testimony. We prayed. We learned biblical, practical ways to deal with our feelings and emotions. The theme of the day was building strong men for the betterment of our families, our community, and our church, right? Because so often, I say this regularly, it's not an original thought of my own. I give credit to my pastor for the person who I heard say it, but I believe it, that a community is only as strong as the men in the community are. And we're trying to build strong communities on the backs of broken men. Broken men in the sense of not physical. I'm not speaking physical. I don't care how many times you could bench press 225. You know what I mean? I'm talking about from a mental, spiritual, and emotional perspective. Financial as well. But the focus this past Saturday for our Men's Day retreat was mental, emotional, and spiritual. One of the 3 excellent facilitators of learning, we had Minister Mike Stanley, and we had Brother Stan Odom, and we had Brother Doc Branch. Brother Doc Branch spoke about grief and loss. And he gave us some practical ways to deal with grief and loss. But before he gave us practical ways of dealing with grief and loss, he talked about grief and loss, right? and the things that we grieve that we probably don't even realize that we're grieving. Um, you know, around the holiday times, it become tough for so many of us because family isn't what family used to be, you know, and it's unfortunate. I shared with a brother yesterday that on my maternal side, it's only four of us, you know, on my maternal side. Um, and that's tough, you know. People talk about seasonal depression and stuff like that. I shared um, with the men when I was talking on Saturday that, you know, we bury so many of our feelings and our emotions, you know, and then it might seem like something so small that transpired that trigger it and trigger us to explode and go off. So we need to be encouraged and encourage one another to be able to find healthy means to deal with those feelings and emotions, healthy ways to grieve. I was fortunate enough to attend a workshop that Doc Branch presented um, at the Roberta's house here in Baltimore um, several months back. And he gave me a different perspective about grief. Like I don't know if I shared this with you this time, but I've lost both my parents to cancer. My dad in 2017, complications of throat cancer, and my mom in 2023 passed away due to um, lung cancer. And I went to the workshop and I shared with Doc. I said I don't believe that I had grieved, and I said that because you know that the quote unquote experts will tell you that there are different stages of grief. You know, so you need to go through this stage, and then this stage. But what I realized from taking a workshop at the Roberta's house that was led by Doc Branch was grief shows up in many different ways in many different people. You know what I mean? Grief is personal. You know, um, it's not about the different stages of grief. It's more so important just to know that you're grieving. And he pointed out that I was grieving. Even the way that I showed up and the way I continue to show up, I am in grief and I am grieving. Um, but there are ways to address the grief. And he talked about the iceberg and everything that's underneath the iceberg that needs to be addressed. Right? It's not that you're grieving; it's how it shows up. It's it may be what caused the grief and how is it going to show up, you know, if that makes sense to you. How are you going to express it, you know? And I challenge and charge and encourage our men to find a healthy way to express it. Oftentimes we self-medicate. um, we become over sexualized, um, spend money that we don't have, you know, do things that we shouldn't be doing, take risks that we shouldn't take. You know, oftentimes um, it shows up in a more detrimental way than anything. So what we learned on Saturday was let's find ways to grieve in a healthy manner. And let's first acknowledge that we are grieving. And it's all right to grieve. You know, it's all right to grieve, you know. Um, and it's all right to cry. We need to change the narrative. You know, what I'm supposed to do with the feelings and emotions that I feel. Just continue to suppress it until I can no longer suppress it. I'd rather express it than suppress it, you know. Um, Maybe I just need to learn how to properly express it. One of the things that we tried to encourage each brother to do um, from our Men's Day retreat was to have an accountability partner, someone that holds you accountable, to have a prayer partner, have someone that you could confide in, another brother that you could talk to. You know what I mean? And even if you have to cry in the midst of your conversation, wipe tears real tough if you had to. Do whatever you need to do, but let it out. get it off of you. You know what I mean? We can't build a strong community on the backs of weakened men.